So our history, okay, there's a northern and southern office established in 2001, and after February 1999 Tosco refinery incident, where 4 workers were killed, they gave the state $1 million as seed money to start up the 2 PSM district offices. And just January 3rd, they combined the north and south into 1 statewide district office. So I get a lot of frequent flyer miles down to LA now. So our mission to ensure that establishments covered by the PSM standard are complying with PSM requirements. District office personnel shall conduct programmed accident, complaint, or referral-based inspections. We actually get a few referrals from our CUPA reps down the valley mostly. They usually sometimes will call us up and they'll have someone who's kind of giving them a hard time, maybe not turning in their paperwork or not turning something in. So they'll call us up and say, hey, do you think you can encourage them? So we work with a number of the CUPA reps through, I think it's from Fresno, well actually from Baronia over at Stanislaus all the way down towards Tulare, I think it was. So primary enforcement method that we utilize to assess PSM compliance is a PSM-specific inspection, termed a program quality verification inspection, which basically means we get to look at, like you guys, we get to look at a ton of paperwork. We go in and do a plan inspection. We definitely look at a lot of paperwork, and we evaluate it, discuss it. A lot of times they discuss it and see if everything's in compliance or not. So statewide, we've completed over 614 PSM inspections, and with finalized penalties of $2,900,000. I think actually that's probably closer to. We usually issue like about probably $5-6 million, I think, a total. But then actually what we settle on is obviously a lot less. Yeah.
Is there still that STAR program or VPP?
There is the VPP CalSTAR program, and then there's also the VPP program that they have. You have VPP STAR, and I forget the other one. Golden Gate, I think it is. Or SHARP program. SHARP program.
Is that just for refineries?
Oh no, it's for any business owner, any business owner, and they're really, I always tell people I consider them the best of the best for that industry. Especially if like Valero Refinery has been about 8 years now, about 6 years. They've been VPP for Benicia and for Wilmington, and so whenever I'm in the other refineries, once in a while you can I like to nudge them a little bit. And, well, you're only about 3rd best in the state. You got Valero that's actually sitting at number 1. So, but there's like wineries also. Gallo Winery is a VPP site. There's quite a few.
Can you expound on the VPP?
Okay. Oh, sure. So a VPP program is it's kind of what do they call it? It's kind of bragging rights, I guess, for your industry. It costs you a ton of money, but what it is basically say you have a really good, say winery, and you've got a really good program going, and you've got a great safety and health program, and everything looks good, and that I always tease them, that Clyde's office comes out every so often because they fall under the PSM inspection program. So they go, well, I think we want to try for VPP. So they send in an application to consultation. Consultation sends a big checklist back. They fill that out, fix things, do what's called the gap analysis, send that back in. Then they come out again. They actually physically come out, review the site, do a complete audit, give a checklist to fix things. They go back, they fix them, and then they kind of switch off again. And then once all that's done, then they get a nice flag that says VPP STAR. And basically they're exempted from any program type inspections that we have. So we still do accident and complaint-based inspections, but they're exempt from the program ones. And there's only, I think they're up to 100, a little over 100 companies now that are VPP in the state of California. So, oh no, most refineries just 2. We got same company but 2 facilities. Construction companies. I think Clorox still might be one. Clorox bleach. The couple is quite a few different. You'd never think of it. Quite a few different industries that actually have gotten it. And then you get, when you become VPP, that means you get to be a mentor to other people in your industry who want to become VPP. So your safety person is now also working for, with other industries or companies. And let's see, we also, 5189 is always in the top 20 most cited violations, Title 8 violations in California. I think we started off at about 8 back in 2001, and we're down to about 17 now, 17 out of 20. So experience has shown effective outreach and education, along with a targeted enforcement program, will grieve greater voluntary compliance and reduce injuries. So that's kind of who we are. That's kind of who CalOSHA, PSM district office is, kind of how we operate, kind of our history a little bit. So what's our differences, or what similarities do we have? So facility is required to complete an RMP, but that facility is also required to complete a California Accidental Release Prevention Program. The requirements of the CalARP program encompasses the requirements of the RMP. Is that correct? In a nutshell, I guess. The purpose of the risk management program is to reduce and prevent accidental chemical releases, to reduce the severity and minimize the consequences of chemical releases, to improve coordination and communication between regulated facilities and local emergency preparedness and response agencies to improve emergency response. Look familiar? Yeah, pretty familiar. Now, some counties are really, when it comes to this right here, some counties are really proactive with this. Contra Costa County has I always call it the HIT team, but I think they're called the Hazardous Materials Interagency Task Force. And they get together, is it quarterly, Chone? Yeah, I think it's either every other month or quarterly. I can't remember. But they basically get all the agency, anyone who would respond to a large release, okay, like a refinery or chemical plant or something like that, they get all those agency people and they meet like once every, I think it's every 3 months. And you just kind of meet to see each other, talk about the different things, who has jurisdiction over what. And the goal of that was that when there's a huge event that occurs, we're all not stumbling on our toes saying, well, who's in charge? Well, I'm in charge. I'm not in charge. I'm in charge, and kind of lays all that out. And they really, do a good job with this. And it's nice because we actually do sometimes meet them in a facility. We'll meet them at a place, and we kind of know who they are, and they know who we are. It makes, it really tends to, it shows a good united front when you're dealing with large employers who sometimes like to conquer and divide. So RMP contains 3 programs. You guys know this. Program 1 is for with no significant release of chemicals. Okay, Program 2, public, what's this, injury or restriction for the previous 5 years. And 2, where there is no public receptor, any commercial, residential, institutional facility inside the distance. Okay. Because of this second requirement is likely the only very rural locations will be put into Program 1. Program 3 is for facilities subject to PSM. Program 2 is basically for anyone who's not a 1 or a 3, is my understanding. So do you know of any other? I know fertilizer, you guys categorize as a 2, while we consider it a PSM facility. Is there anything else that you guys might think of that might be different like that? Well, like I'm dealing with Sacramento Coupa group right now over a chemical company, and I was in there, and my people are in there, and they're like, "Where's your RMP?" They're like, "Well, we don't need to have an RMP." Yeah, you do. Of course, you're a chemical facility. You need an RMP, And come to find out, they've been skating under the RMP, staying at Program 2, even though they're a PSM facility. Certain parts of the plant are a PSM facility, And how they're getting away with it, I guess, is the definition, your definition of storage tanks, whether storage tanks are covered under the RMP or not.
If they're Program 1, they could possibly not have it, but if they're 2, they should have the RMP.
No, but, except, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, but the RMP, though, for Program 2 is not as enhanced as it is for Program 3. Correct. And for this facility, we were curious because we were expecting a Program 3 RMP requirement out of them, and there was only a 2, so we're kind of like, well, You know, is there a, because sometimes we'll hit that. We'll see that these, like right now, there's that little difference between the PSM regulation and the RMP regulation. So, yes?
Does OSHA recognize administrative controls to control the inventory below the thresholds?
Do,
Keep you out of the PSM standard?
oh no, they'll still, administrative controls don't. Actually, they're the,
Like I can have like a 10,000 gallon tank, but I only keep 3,000 gallons in it so that I don't exceed the PSM
oh,
standard.
yeah, short filling. Yeah, absolutely. They can do that. And when we go in, what we usually do is we'll say, okay, they're like, Clyde, I've got a 10,000, I got a 15-pound, you know, ammonia receiver, and I only have 8,000 pounds in it. I'll say, okay, great. Show me your last 3 years worth of records that you have for, you know, for filling it up and stuff like that, and we'll look at that. We look at that and some other things. I got one guy who's really good at taking calculations, but even calculations, I always give him 500 pounds, I tell them. You know, so if he comes in at, you know, a 10,000, you know, 100 pounds, you know, I'm usually going to let that go if it's based on a calculation. So, and then we'll tell them to get it lower, usually. But yeah, I have seen that where they'll fill it up. I'll have a big tank and they'll use only a little bit. And sometimes I'll have employees call me and say, hey, don't go out there. Actually, I think it was, a matter of fact, a guy named John Mercado down in Tulare had called me and said, don't go down to this facility, you know, this is like January, because the receiver's half full. You got to wait until May when they kick it up, the system up, and they're going to increase the amount of ammonia that's in the receiver. That's when you want to go. So, because as long as they meet the threshold quantity at any point within a given year, then they need to have a PSM program. And well, usually what will happen is with consultants is they'll go in and they'll say, oh, you need to do your RMP. We'll do your RMP for you, and that'll just suffice as your PSM program. And I always tell them you shouldn't do that because there are differences between the two. Or you shouldn't do your PSM program, you know, and tag along your and think that's going to cover the RMP, because it's not. You know, there's some differences. So, but sometimes you get these consultants, you know, they're going to come in and give you a 2-for-1, you know, for your program. So here's ones that are program 3 that you guys have, or process safety information, PHAs, operating procedures, employee participation, mechanical integrity, permits for hot work, management of change, incident investigation, emergency preparedness, and you got compliance audits. So really between the PSM reg and the RMP, we swipe out IIPP with compliance audits. Yes, sir.
Yes, and going back, you were saying there is a company which makes fertilizer using anhydrous ammonia. Now they say they have like about 25,000 pounds of ammonia, and they're saying that will be classified as level 3. Now the question comes up as safety. Now there should be a process, if they're having that much of ammonia, there should be a process of capturing or release of ammonia if hydrostatic force happens in the tank.
Okay.
So it's a part of the process, it's a safety process. So there shouldn't be like having the PSM on that?
They do. That's what we're saying, they do. That's what we require now for anhydrous ammonia systems with the fertilizer industry. You know, they use it to mix it to make fertilizer, or they usually sell it directly to make fertilizer. They're all covered under the PSM standard. And so, but what they're saying is right now, what they're saying is, Clyde, we'll go ahead and comply with PSM, but we're not doing anything with our RMP, because our RMP is program 2. Until someone tells me to change it, we're not changing it. So that's one of the areas where there's a little bit of a difference, where we're requiring say like a level 3, where you guys are still kind of holding it at level 2 or program 2. Did you have?
One comment on that, Clyde.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of an industry type, only in program 3 does the CalARP program differentiate between industry types.
Correct.
The NEICS code
Correct.
requires certain industries would be a 3 or 1 if they don't effectively cover. Program 2 is a catch-all.
Yeah.
We don't, I would say we don't typically classify any particular industry as 2. It just depends on what chemicals they store, what their PSM or one of the listed codes.
Sure. I think the Anhydrous is though, isn't it? Yeah. So it depends on the industry. I mean, isn't there a specific? You're talking about a specific industry under the NCI? Yeah. Yeah.
Now, typically for 10,000 pounds, it should be subject to PSM in my eyes,
Sure.
regardless what that industry is.
Correct.
We don't have any ammonia or fertilizer plants in our county, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
If we did, we would pretty much say he should be subject to PSM as well as program 3.
Yeah. Well, that's what the industry was afraid of, was that since we're requiring them to be PSM, covered under PSM, now they're seeing that, the RMP is going to come up later on and require them to be Program 3 instead of Program 2, which I agree. I think they should,
Well, subject to PSM, they're different from Program 3.
I'm sorry, what's that?
If they're subject to PSM, they're Program 3.
Correct, correct. And that's what they're afraid of, but they're kind of dodging the bullet right now, and so. You know what? I gave them a 2-hour class with checklists and everything. I said, okay, and I think we'll probably see some of this. Here's Program 2, and here's Program 3. This is how you get there. You don't need to go hire a consultant for $50,000. I said, here's a way that you can get from Program 2 to Program 3, fairly quickly, and still comply if you kind of follow these steps. So, and I gave them a year kind of before we would do any inspections. So, and I think most of them did. I'm pretty sure most of them did. So, I just don't think that I'm not for sure if you see, one of the things that hasn't really gotten out is that when it comes to this industry, the RMP or the CUPA groups for those counties we really haven't talked. So we're just starting to talk and say, okay, they're like, oh, you're requiring them to be PSM? And I'm like, yeah, okay, we're going to require them to be Program 3 now. So, but as that word gets out, I think it'll take off. It's just been kind of slow going to get it out. But I think that's like groups. I mean, having presentations like this is nice. Is that we kind of share some things that we haven't really talked about as a big group, that we're doing. Or yes.
I guess for me, the bigger question isn't going from 2 to a 3, is going from PSM to a 3. If you're already at PSM, what gets you to a 3? What are the differences?
Oh, we'll go into it. Offsite consequence. We don't deal with that. We care with every. Nope, we deal with those. We'll get to the slide. We have a saying: we're inside the fence line. You guys are outside the fence line. So, and you guys deal with all the the zone of death and all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah.
So how do you monitor the risk on the level 3 or level 2 RMM? Because the main thing is that, as we know, that if ammonia is released more than 100 pounds in 24 hours series, you have to report to EPA. I've seen some facilities which does not have a accountability system to say how much ammonia has been released into the air if the safety valve goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I guess I could say my answers. Like I tell Mary Wessling, anything like that, that's your problem. These are my responsibilities and my problem. And I'll usually tell Mary these are the things that Mary deals with. And we communicate, obviously. If I have a release and I don't see Mary, like say at Evergreen facility down here in Newark, we were on site, and the first thing my compliance person goes is, he calls up Mary after a couple hours. Hey, do you know about this site? And she's like, oh no, what's going on? And boy, she had someone down there, I think right after he hung up the phone. So, but yeah, we do communicate. But yeah, we kind of don't really for us, we kind of don't look at stuff like that. So yeah, here's some of the things you guys require: registration, general plan information. The registration I absolutely love. I love your right to know, your RMP right to know website. I get all my targeting places from that website. So that's just the best website ever. Whoever does that, my hat's off to them. That's a great website. Offsite consequence analysis, 5-year accident history. So we don't do offsite consequence analysis. We don't do accident history. Okay, a prevention program, the same as for PSM, Program 2, Program 3 only. Emergency response program. We kind of get emergency response in under emergency planning, but it's really kind of a stretch for us. Certification. Okay, PSM standard does not require the above information in facilities that have a PSM program. So these are kind of things that, so you see for for someone to do a PSM program and say, okay, fine, here's our PSM/RMP, okay, they're going to be missing a whole lot of stuff, you know. And then for us, it's kind of the same way. If we do just PSM, they'll miss other things. So the principal areas in which the requirement of PSM different chemical lists and threshold quantities. So we're a little different. Actually, I thought we were a little bit more different than I actually thought originally. But like we're 1,500 pounds. You guys are 2,500 pounds. I think your ammonia and hydrous ammonia is lower. What's that? Oh, that's right. I put the wrong. Never mind. I got the wrong slide. So I forgot to change that. That's right. So RMP requires hazard assessments that include analysis of worst case accident consequences. RMP requires preparation of written risk management plans. Risk management plans must be registered, and the RMP does not cover storage tanks. So that's but I guess, you know, yeah, I guess that's true. We probably just don't cover. That's been a gray area for us, storage tanks, because our regulation says we cover it, but we haven't actually adjudicated it yet. Yes, sir? I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, I had it wrong. This is the federal.
100.
Yeah, 100.
Can you explain the last bullet? RMP does not cover storage tanks.
So storage tanks, well, this is what I was just told. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I was just told, actually, is that if you have a propane storage tanks, okay? Yeah, propane storage tanks, and they're filling up rail cars and stuff like that, that wouldn't be covered under huh? They would? Okay. Well, then I just learned something new. So, okay. Yeah, we don't cover those atmospheric ones either. But I was talking to about like different chemical tanks that are covered, that part of the TQ, but they're not part of a process or anything. I was told that.
We consider that's a process in and of itself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So that's good to know. So let's see. PSM addresses the on-site release of chemicals and employee health and safety. RMP addresses the off-site release of chemicals and its effect on the environment and community. And that's kind of, I mean, that's like a rough way. I mean, when you do an RMP, you're actually, I mean, you're looking at the same stuff that workers are looking at. But so it's kind of, this is just kind of like a snapshot type of saying. But that's kind of how we look at it, is really the RMP. You guys are really about, you know, the environment and the community and stuff like that. Yeah?
That's true, but I'll just add that by statute, the Clean Air Act, is that when EPA does RMP inspections, we're supposed to include employees. in
Yes.
the facility. So, you know, because they have, again, they have an interest in their own
But is it,
worker safety.
but is it, so Mary and I had talked, she's saying that you include the employees because if the employees do something wrong, that can have an effect on the outside.
That, but also, I mean, a lot of the programmatic elements,
Okay.
RMP and PSM, are going to be the same.
They are.
And when we're talking about operating procedures and, you know,
Oh.
confidential conversations with them about general safety.
Sure.
concerns.
Yeah, we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely looking at the same
So I
thing.
guess my point is we don't limit ourselves to beyond the fence.
Okay. So that was just kind of how we kind of differentiated our two
No, I think
agencies.
that's the intent
Yeah,
with the Clean Air Act setting up both programs.
yeah. So now, are you allowed to, you guys are allowed to issue citations under the Clean Air Act, right?
Not field citations.
Not, okay.
We have an enforcement authority, but that's delegated to, upper management.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's usually where, that's why I know that's one of the reasons why some of my guys will work with some of the Coupa guys that, like I said, down the valley. We had about 4 cogeneration plants through the valley that were just, they had no PSM program at all. It's a simple system. It was mostly for NOx, for their NOx, but they didn't have anything, and they were just kind of getting this pushback. So we kind of went in and worked with them, and they gave us pretty much everything we needed to go in and, issue a couple citations and kind of get the employer moving along. So it's one of the ways I think that works well with us when we have the opportunity to work together. So yeah, there we go. Can we work together? Absolutely. It's I know it's I found it very beneficial. I know in Contra Costa County, with the group there, we tend to we offer them training. They offer us training. You know, we kind of look at things. They'll supply us with some of the audits from some of their facilities. We'll supply them with all our citations and stuff. You know, usually it's the same day we're issuing it to the employer. We're faxing it over to Chone or Randy so they can take a look at them. So, you know, it's one of those things where I've really, Contra Costa is really about the best county that I've been able to really work with that because I live there. But there's other groups that we've been working with, like I said, down in the valley. They tend to, your Coupa reps in the valley, I think from like Fresno down to Bakersfield, they tend to move around a lot or move up. So we tend to see some new faces every time we go down that way. Oh yeah, so John F. Kennedy, there are risks and costs to a program of action, but there are less than the long-range risks and costs of comfortable inaction. So
if we wanted to see the history of OSHA citations for a business in our area, you would have like a list or?
Oh, give you the website. Yeah, we have a web.
You just go on and
Yeah, FedOSHA has a website, and what you could do is you got to put in the establishment name and then the state or county. If you put the more information you can put in, the better. But like the state and county and the company name, and it'll tell you how many times we've been out there and what citations were, and you know, what do we settle for, what do we go to hearing on, stuff like that. And it'll give you like accidents, complaints, and program inspections. It's not as good as your website. Yours is very user friendly. Ours really isn't that user friendly. Yes.
Any other exemptions from PSM, like utilities, pseudo-government agencies, special districts?
What do you mean by utilities? Like utility plants?
Water districts, sanitary districts?
No, not sanitary districts. If they have chlorine, water treatment plants. Oh yeah, oh yeah. There are some of them are you know, behind the times a little bit. But yeah, chlorine. They use chlorine, a water treatment plant, or a wastewater treatment plant, or even a facility that uses it for sterilizing, cleaning, you know, the fruits and stuff. But what we have with them kind of set up is that if they come into compliance, they still have to pay the fine, but in 3 years, they're allowed to recoup their money. Of course, no one's ever told me how they can recoup their money, but it's written somewhere that they can recoup their money. So, yes, sir.
Well, just kind of an answer to that last question. That's one of the distinctions between OSHA and CalOSHA, is that in state delegated programs, such as in California, municipal workers are covered.
Yes.
And that's about like half the states are delegated programs, but for the undelegated
Correct.
programs, which are subject to OSHA PSM,
They're not
municipal
covered.
workers are not covered.
Correct. That's a good point. That's a very good point. So yeah, between CalOSHA and FedOSHA, there's a good. I mean, they're not huge, but there are again subtle differences between us, you know, with our federal counterparts, and sometimes those can get a little, you know, contentious at times. So, yes.
So when you write a violation for a business that has, say, an accident or an injury, and you cite all the, you know, what they did wrong, are you giving them a certain amount of time to put those things in place, like write procedures or train people? Or
Sure. Usually, for like say operating procedures, mechanical integrity, maybe PSI information. Probably give them 30 days to get it in place. PHAs, I usually give them 3 months, 3 to 4 months typically. If they don't have a program at all, like there's a little refinery called Kern Oil Refinery in Bakersfield. We went there and they didn't have anything. I mean, they've been running for years and didn't have anything. So it was about a year. I give them about a year abatement period. So they had to give progress reports every month. Let me know where they're at. So. But yeah, it can be a little, you know, our abatement really kind of depends on what, but it isn't like our normal. If you have a serious citation, it's 3 days. You know, you have to abate in 3 days, but you can't do that when you're dealing with a program as sophisticated as this one. So, yes, Mike?
I had a question just about the federal OSHA's Chemical National Ethics Program. You told me that's them to all 50 states. Is that true?
49 of them. the reason why is that I don't know if some of you know CalOSHA or FedOSHA has this national emphasis program on refineries. They're out there, we're going to go get refineries, and then now it's that we're going to go get chemical facilities. And so all state plans have to do. Let's see, you have to do all your refineries. You have to do how many? I forget. 1 or 2 refineries a year. You got to do 10 chemical facilities, which include chlorine and ammonia, a year. I think my office has done 14 refinery inspections in a year. We've done 34 chemical plant facilities in a year. I was telling, they were trying to kind of force us to do the refineries more, and I kind of just went and I said, well, okay, here's our record is from 2001 to now, when we've been in, here in the facility, there's been 1 PSM-related facility at a refinery. So if you go on the federal side of it, there's 54. So I said, I think our program's working just fine. And like I tell them too, we got you guys out there too. So it isn't just us doing inspections. It's the Coupa groups that are doing inspections as well. So there's a lot of us out there.
To elaborate on that question though, should we expect an increase?
No. I'm the one that gets to do that, so I'm not increasing. So we're not, yeah.
EPA is not going to come in, or not
Well,
FedOSHA can't come in.
no, they can't.
It would have to be directed through the state.
Correct. So remember, FedOSHA is kind of, the big federal governing body. Then the state plans, they'll give state plans 50 cents on the dollar to run their OSHA program. Every state plan can have their own regulations as long as they're least as effective as the federal regulations. But we have authority we're the ones that, have the authority to implement those regulations. Where now sometimes on FedOSHA, if we've had like 3 fatalities, then we've had 3 fatalities I was at a spaceship developing site down in Mojave Desert, or construction site, I guess you could say. They had 3 fatalities there. FedOSHA just called up and they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, this is what we're doing. You want to come on down?" And they're like, "No, just tell me when it's over." So they give us a pretty good. We've got a really good working relationship with the feds, and so we get a lot of. I think they give us a lot of leeway on some of these things. So, yes, sir. Yes.
Still alive and well, and if so, how does that work?
Yeah, in California, it's alive and well. The feds, they didn't lose people; they just lost their money. I think was how that worked. So, but California, we're still doing well. It's kind of an old joke that some of my friends with the feds working consultation, they weren't too thrilled when they got their budget cut. But no, California, the consultation is, as one employer told me, is the best kept secret in the state because employers pay for the service. So if you're an employer, say you're a construction site, you're getting ready to set up, you're getting ready to bring work in, and you got your site safety plan developed, and maybe you're kind of like thinking, well, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. You call up the consultation office. Okay, they'll schedule someone to come out. They'll come out. They'll review your site safety plan. They'll look at all your, all the things that you're going to do. They'll tell you recommend what programs you should have, what training you should have, maybe what monitoring you should have. They'll do all that, and that's all at no cost. That's at no cost.
And they don't talk to the compliance department?
No, I wish they did, but no, they don't. I'd get a lot of easy work if they did, but no, they don't. They never. The only time that we've ever crossed was when we were doing the Valero Refinery, their recertification for VPP, and that group they didn't have a mechanical integrity person, so they asked my person, Carla, who works with me, who's our expert in mechanical integrity, to kind of go over there under the hat of VPP to audit their program. And they were very nervous having her there because she's had a lot of, discussion. We always had mechanical integrity is one of those things we have a lot of talks about, and so they were, they were a little nervous. But normally that was like a very rare exception, though. So, yes, sir.
I always thought there was a 3-year self-PSM audit
For the feds.
for the feds.
Yeah, feds,
All right.
not California. Yeah, for the feds.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is because I've got a lot of pushback from facilities saying that it's not required. And I reviewed the IPP's regulation in California. I'm not a safety person, but
Sure.
I reviewed it real quickly, and it seemed a lot less regulation under OSHA that I saw that directed somebody to go and check PSM, mechanical integrity standards, you know, or did they do an MOC, did they use the right, you know, steel or metal,
So-
whatever, in the replacement part, or, you know, do their operating procedures cover this? It appeared to me to be more physical site inspections, and so I just didn't see the rigor.
The one thing about California regulations, they're notorious for having an issue with this is, okay, this is a PSM facility. I go to the IIPP, I'm saying, okay, where does it talk about it? Well, it doesn't say anything about it, but I have to go to the PSM regulation. It says, okay, here it says they have to comply with the IIPP for PSM, or dealing with PSM. So what that does is that's telling the employer, okay, if you have a PSM program, then you need to reference that in your IIPP and talk about your inspections and audits and stuff like that. 99% of the employers don't do that. So that's like how there's what do they call that? That's one of those things that's just real easy to get, if you're out there. That's one of those, So it's usually a regulatory violation. We call it paperwork violation. So, but yeah, we do require them. Yeah, if we will go in there and we'll tell them. I think some of my compliance people have a little paragraph roughly that they say, okay, take this paragraph and just shove it in your IIPP and that'll cover you. So they may have to change it a little, but yeah, that's one of the things with kind of a little different with us. Sometimes, like we're dealing with hot work, fire blankets. And you start with this regulation, you move over to this regulation that takes you to this regulation that says it has to be approved by a NERDL. You go to the NERDLs and it says, okay, you can only be approved by these NERDLs. And that ties all the way back to this regulation over here. And so it can be annoying for sure. So whenever you're kind of looking at our regulations, if it references you somewhere, okay, you may want, you definitely check it out and read through it and see where it takes you. Because it can take you quite a ways. Any other questions or anything? You're being very quiet, Mary. Okay. All right. Well, huh? Almost, that's right. All right, well, if there's no questions, I think we're done a little bit early. But if there's no questions, it's nice meeting with you guys today.